Hey everybody, this is David at BarnYard Bees. We're coming up towards end of August. I think today's August 26th. And the goldenrod is coming on pretty heavy. And the bees are picking up pace. They're working harder because in the dearth, there's not a whole lot for them to do, so you'll see more of, unless you're open feeding, and if you're not feeding at all, you'll see them just kind of hanging back, waiting in limbo for something to happen. But as the dearth opens back up, you'll see more and more activity, and you'll start to see more pollen coming in. I can see a light. I don't know if it'll show up on the camera. They're bringing in some pollen, but it's very light colored pollen. Could be from the goldenrod. But what you can start doing now, or what I would recommend, is your external feeders. Keep an eye on them and see if they're declining somewhat on those. They should be. If your goldenrod is coming on, they're going to take the natural nectar before they will the artificial sweetener. They're not the artificial sweetener, the sugar, the sucrose. So you can pull that back, and it's getting to where it's safe again to start using your hive top feeders. One way to tell that if you don't have any more of a feeding frenzy is to pour out some sugar water anywhere on the ground, on a platform, and watch the bees and see how wild and crazy they go after it. If they come towards it but they don't act a whole lot of interest in it, or if they're just tearing it up, fighting like they're trying to rip each other apart to get to it, you know you're still in dearth. It's all part of reading the bees, and that's just how we do every year. We know by looking at them, by walking by, how they're flying, how they're acting. We can tell when they're in dearth and out of dearth just by watching them and watching how they're behaving. And it's something you can learn too over the years. It just takes a little bit of time and practice. But go ahead, start with your larger colonies and put feed in your hive top feeders, maybe a couple of your large ones, and then wait a couple of days and see how the bees act. When you got your feeder up through here, look and make sure there's not other colonies trying to get up through at a mad rate. Some of them will anyway, a little bit, but you'll know when it's a frenzy. You'll know when they're really attacking that hive and trying to get it out. Now, you don't want to start off with your smaller colonies that you've done splits with, because if they decide to get in there and take theirs, they're going to get it, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. Not unless you completely closed it off and completely moved the hive somewhere else. And then when you open it back up, they'll eventually find it again. So start off with your bigger colonies. Start feeding them first. You kind of do it in reverse. You would think you would feed the small ones first, but you don't do that. And that's the reason. Feed the bigger ones, and you should anyway have you really don't want a big giant colony sitting by a split. You want to try to keep those somewhat separated a little bit, because if that big hive does go into feeding frenzy, anything within a few feet is a target. So keep that in mind. Try to keep your splits away from your bigger colonies. It'll help you out a lot and keep your bees alive, your young colonies. Don't forget, we got 2022 packages for sale. If you want to get yours earlier next year, go ahead, BarnYardBees.com, and put in your order. Beekeeping supplies, whatever you need, BarnYardBees.com. Queens. So just kind of go out and watch your colonies. And it's hot. See how they're fanning? Look how they're fanning. Look at their wings all across here. They're just fanning, trying to cool down the hive. And then you got workers coming in. I can see pollen. There's one pollen coming in, light colored pollen. So they're bringing it in. They're starting to bring in the fall nectar flow. Not a lot yet, but it's starting. So try that. Try slowing down on your sugar. Let the bees, at this time of year, we recommend, unless you just have excess amount of honey, we like leaving the goldenrod, what's left over for the goldenrod for the bees to overwinter. And hopefully you didn't take too much up until that point. So just a little tip from Barnyard Bees. Get ready to start feeding your hive top feeder again. And watch the top of the lid. When you fill it up, you'll see, you'll know when you're feeding sugar water and they're following you around relentlessly, trying to get to you. It's just a matter of practice. You'll recognize those characteristics of the bees so easy once you get into it for a while. But that's about it, folks. Don't forget, please help share our videos. Click on the little bell, like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. BarnYard Bees.